Hello people, today I'm making a very big video, which I kind of done it, kind of not. This is my top 25 roller coasters I've ridden, and this is early 2018 edition. The reason why I am doing another edition is because, for the fact that I feel like my top 10 has changed, so it will be fairly different compared to what was before. So my top 10 a little different. Plus, like some coasters like Dragon Challenge are not. I have not putting them in the top 25. You know they technically would if they were still operating. So that's part of the reason why I'm doing this video. And of course, at the end of the year, I'll update my list. So which of coasters I've not yet experienced. I'll probably get to experience this year. So I will update this list whenever I get to ride some new roller coasters. Okay, so without further ado, let's begin. At number 25 is the Daredevil Dive at Six Flags Over Georgia. At the moment, this is the only Gerstlauer Eurofighter that I've ridden, and I thought this was a very enjoyable roller coaster. The vertical lift was pretty fantastic, the drop was fantastic, and this is a roller coaster where, if you don't know find Six Flags Over Georgia vlog, this is a coaster that I rode first time. We actually got stuck halfway through, and that was a neat experience. I'll never forget that. That was one of the most memorable coaster experiences I've had. And yeah, but overall the ride, it was a lot more intense than I was expecting. The airtime was better than I expected. The hang time was amazing. I really enjoyed Daredevil Dive. Plus, it was very smooth. Number 24 is Verbolten at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. This is just another family coaster, but this is definitely one of my favorite family coasters. The theming of this ride is incredible. I love the launches, like when it launches you inside the building. I love that part. And plus, when I first rode it, I actually felt like I was gonna black out. And the free fall drop caught me off guard. This is a roller coaster that I always wanted to ride. When I first heard about this coaster, I wanted to ride it so badly. And then when I rode it, I was like, it was kind of an emotional moment. It was like surreal to me because I was like, I can't believe I'm riding Verbolten. I mean, this is not my favorite coaster ever, as you can see. But it's definitely a pretty enjoyable ride. Yeah, I was a little disappointed with the smoothness. It was kind of rough, but it just doesn't take away from the experience that much. And it also has some tributes to Big Bad Wolf, like the final ending. And I never rode Big Bad Wolf, but I just want to bring that up. Okay, 23 we have Cheetah Hunt at Busch Gardens, Tampa. This is probably the best family coaster I've ever ridden. Cheetah Hunt, what makes Cheetah Hunt better than most family coasters I've ridden, basically all of them, is of its incredibly long ride, its airtime. The 3 launches are amazing too. I love the second launch especially. Plus that figure 8 element, also the version you go through it very slowly. It has some neat airtime, especially in the back row. I mean, this ride isn't exactly an intense ride. It's kind of forceless, but the fun factor is amazing. The fun factor is very high on this coaster, and that's why I really love Cheetah Hunt. Plus, it's still pretty smooth for its age. I mean, definitely it's a little shaky, but it's a fun roller coaster. Not intense, it's just so much fun. Number 22, we have the Hollywood Rip Ride Rock at Universal Studios. Yes, yeah. Get ready for give me all the hate. I put this coaster in my top 25. As I mentioned with a lot of my videos, I just say this coaster is just pretty good. And yeah, it is pretty good. However, now these days it's just underwhelming. Like, first off, the drop is trimmed. I don't feel it during the ride, but it's just there. I don't know why they added those trims. It's very strange. And don't even use them. Like, what the flip is wrong with you, Universal? I mean, but I usually try to look for positives here, and yeah, I mean, there are some positives to this ride. Like, the airtime is fantastic. The vertical lift's fantastic, and the drop is pretty good too. It's trimmed, I still enjoy the drop. I definitely think it's impressive how you can even feel the trims. And I also love the elements like the non-braiding loop, the treble clef, like the helix and treble clef. I really enjoy that ride. Now this ride kind of has a weird layout. It has some unique elements, but some of the parts I'm just like, why is this even there? Probably just add to the ride. My favorite part of this ride is probably the non-vertical or the vertical lift. I think that's probably my favorite part. That vertical lift is crazy. Probably the best lift in my opinion. But Riptide Rocket, I mean, it's still again not a perfect ride. I mean, some people do think it's rough, and I have to 100% agree. This is a very rough roller coaster. But I'm usually one who has a high tolerance for roughness, so rough coasters can be fairly good sometimes, and this is one of them. But it's outdated. They need to update the soundtrack for this coaster. I will agree on that. Riptide Rocket is pretty good, but it's not my favorite. 21, we have Mindbender at Six Flags Over Georgia. This roller coaster blew me away when I rode it. I was honestly so surprised how amazing it was. It just looked like a regular short scuff, but man, the loops were extremely intense. I felt like blacking out in the loops. And the airtime in the back row was just incredible. There's just no way I would ever hit this coaster. It's a classic, and you have to honor the classics. Plus, it's still fairly smooth for its age. Mindbender is just one of those roller coasters that I was just like, it's just straight up wow. That's all I have to say with Mindbender. It's just straight up wow. It's definitely a coaster you must ride when you're at Six Flags Over Georgia. Sorry, I keep coughing. Yeah. Anyhow, number 20, we have Georgia Scorcher at Six Flags Over Georgia. Starting off our top 20. This roller coaster, this is one heck of a stand-up. I've ridden 3 of these stand-ups, and this one's my favorite. I've ridden this, Apocalypse, and Vortex, which Apocalypse and Vortex don't make this list, but this one does. Just because of how intense it is, and just how enjoyable it is. This was just such an enjoyable coaster. I came here with fairly low expectations. I rode Vortex before this, and I thought Vortex was good, but this one just blew me away. And that's all I have to say with Georgia Scorcher. Georgia Scorcher, very enjoyable stand coaster. The slogan for this ride is put your feet to the fire, and that's exactly what this ride does. It puts your feet to the fire. 19, we have Superman Ultimate Flight at Six Flags Over Georgia. Now, before I go on with this coaster, I have to say, again, sorry I keep coughing, but I have to say with this ride, this coaster kind of underwhelmed me. I was a bit underwhelmed by it. Probably just wasn't as intense as I was expecting. Probably because I've ridden Manta, and I've ridden that thing so many times. So I got to this one, and I was a little disappointed by it. I mean, yeah, I still loved it, but it's just not my favorite. The Pretz Loop, that's my favorite part with this. That was a pretty intense element. But the thing was just, that was nowhere near as intense as Manta's Pretz Loop. Manta's Pretz Loop is just madness. This one was nothing. And the rest of the ride is just kind of like, why is it even there? No, it makes it's much better. I like it more with this one because you use the terrain. It uses terrain to its advantage, and that's what makes this ride better than if it were without terrain. Yes, I'm looking at Six Flags Great Adventure and Six Flags Great America. But Superman, overall, I think so. Pretty good. Beat 'em flyer. Definitely a step down from Manta, I have to say. But it's still enjoyable. 18, we have Batman the Ride. It's same part, Six Flags Over Georgia. Like Superman Ultimate Flight, this is the only Batman clone I've ridden. I'm not sure if I said that for Superman Ultimate Flight, but this is the only Batman clone I've ridden. And when I rode it, I was simply surprised. This has to be one of the most intense roller coasters I've ever experienced in my single life. From its outstanding G-forces to, I mean, it's pretty amazing layout. I'm not sure if I'd say it's amazing because it's a clone, but it had some great G-force, especially in the back. I felt like I was blacking out basically, and it wasn't the smoothest. It was a little rattly here and there, but it was so intense, and that's what made Batman just so good. was its intensity. And I think Batman clones are here to stay. They are enjoyable rides. I wouldn't mind if I ride another Batman clone. I mean, if I ride probably more and more every day, I think it would start getting tired of him, but this is a memorable one. This is a good roller coaster. 17 is Tempesto at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. Yes, get ready for more hate. I love this coaster. This roller coaster I just really enjoyed because of, one, it was butter smooth. Two, it was a pretty intense roller coaster. And he also got some really good hang time at the top. I was going to talk about the end version. That version, man, you're going so slow through that. It feels like you're in slow motion. And I really enjoy the launches on this thing. And a non-varying loop. I mean, the non-varying loop's not as good as Rockets, I will say that. But yeah. Now, the one thing that's not that good with Tempesto is, and some people complain about this ride's restraints, I don't think they're bad. I didn't mind the restraints too much. The only problem with Tempesto's restraints is that it banged your ears a little, which definitely kind of hurt. Which, I'm not saying this is rough. This is not a rough coaster by any means, but the transitions were so rapid fire that it kind of banged your ears and it kind of hurt. It felt like the restraints were slicing your ears, which I'm not sure if that's really a good or a bad thing. It's just something I noticed. Sorry, but overall, Tempesto was an enjoyable ride. And I wouldn't mind checking it out again if I had the opportunity to. Sorry, just grabbing water real quick. Well, let's continue this list. Number 16 is the Incredible Hulk coaster at Universal's Islands of Adventure. This has always been a favorite of mine. This is personally my favorite roller coaster at Universal Orlando Resort. And that's because of its intense ride. It's because of its intense ride, its amazing launch, its fast speed, its amazing layout, and also the soundtrack. This roller coaster is a powerhouse. It's a bit of an underrated coaster. Now, I'm not obsessed with this roller coaster. I do think it's a fantastic B&M, but I'm not like theme park crazy who thinks it's better than Kumba. Shake my head right there. But I do love the Incredible Hulk. This will always be a memorable roller coaster for me. Every time I go to Universal, I try to ride this, and it simply does not let up. This is just a fantastic B&M roller coaster. Now, my only problem with the Hulk is at the end seems way slower than the first half. Like the first half, you are just powering through the layout. The second half, you just kind of slow down, which that kind of sucks. But this thing is still fantastic, so I don't really have to complain about this roller coaster that much. Okay, starting off our top 15, we have Manta at SeaWorld Orlando, which, as right now, this is my favorite flying coaster I've ridden. And that's because of its insane layout. If you get a back row ride in this, oh boy, it is insane. If you saw that video of me riding this roller coaster with the GoPro facing me, you saw that literally I was about to black out on the pretzel loop. That is without a doubt the most intense inversion I have ever experienced. And the theming is absolutely gorgeous with this roller coaster. And this, unlike Superman, where it's just kind of like meandering around itself, this thing just does a lot with itself. You won't feel like you're more flying on this roller coaster than Superman. And that's why I like Manta more. Plus, it's very smooth for its age. And yeah, Manta, definitely a roller coaster you must ride at SeaWorld Orlando. One of my favorites. Number 14 is Griffin at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. This roller coaster was fantastic. First off, this has my favorite drop on a roller coaster at the moment. I love how it just seems a lot larger than SheiKra, but I just love the drop. Like, the airtime is amazing during these drops on dive coasters. Plus, I thought it was very smooth. And also, like, the ride was overall amazing. Now, it didn't seem as intense as I thought it would be. It didn't seem as intense as SheiKra, which we'll get to that one later. But this is a fantastic roller coaster. It has the best drop, in my opinion. Has a great splashdown. Overall, amazing roller coaster. I don't really have much to say about it, like, that it really blew me away with it, but I enjoyed it. This is a fantastic dive coaster. And number 13 is SheiKra, which is my favorite dive coaster at the moment. I've only ridden 2 dive coasters, SheiKra and Griffin. I still have yet to experience Valkyrie at Sierra Point. But I just think SheiKra is way better just because I feel like it's more intense, there's more airtime. It might not be as tall or as fast or might not have as many versions, but what separates SheiKra from Griffin is its tunnel dive. That tunnel dive, I just love. Like, that tunnel dive, first off, is extremely tense. And it just adds more uniqueness to the ride. Like, honestly, I would take a tunnel dive over a second Immelman. I think that just makes a perfect dive coaster. It might not be as smooth as Griffin. Definitely has a bit of a rattle to it. But this roller coaster is fantastic. This is just a roller coaster you must ride when you're at Busch Gardens. Now, it's not as good as some of the old school B&Ms just because it's a bit of a shorter ride and it's not as intense as those are. That's why I know some people rank this as the best ride at Busch Gardens. I wouldn't say it's my favorite coaster there. I say there's 2 others that are better than this, but this is a memorable roller coaster, and you have to ride it when you're at Busch Gardens Tampa. Number 12 is a pretty new roller coaster. This is Mindblower at Funspot in Kissimmee. This roller coaster, this is personally my favorite wooden coaster I've ridden at the moment, and it's the only wooden coaster on this list. So the rest of the coasters you'll see here are steel coasters, but Mindblower was fantastic. From its incredible airtime to its amazing speed to that inversion, which blew me away. First of all, it's called Mindblower. I mean, it's a bit of a shorter ride, but wow, this is a fun coaster. You're basically just zooming through the entire course, non-stop action. There's airtime after airtime, turn after turn. This thing was incredible. It felt like a wooden RMC, Florida RMC. That's what I describe Mindblower as. A Florida RMC, which Florida needs to build an RMC. They need an RMC. But this roller coaster was fantastic. And now I've heard for some people this coaster has gotten rough. And I rode this coaster, when I rode this coaster, it had been open for about a month. And I thought it was pretty smooth. I found it to be smoother than White Light they got Funspot in Orlando. So I'm not sure if I ride it now, I probably won't like it as much. I'm trying to plan out another trip to to Funspot, which I haven't planned yet, but I'll try and see if I can plan another trip. But I mean, I love Mindblower. This is one of my favorite coasters and my favorite wooden coaster at the moment. Barely missing the top 10 is Alpengeist at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. This B&M inverted coaster is fantastic. Like, I came in here with fairly low expectations. But man, this thing did not disappoint me at all. The overall experience was just amazing. The inversions were a lot of fun. My favorite part was actually the Cobra, which many enthusiasts call this coaster rough. I did not think it was rough. I thought it had a fairly slight B&M rattle, but surprisingly, the Cobra was my favorite part of Alpengeist. Just especially in the back row, we just got so much whip, and that's what made Alpengeist so good. Plus, I love how it interacts with the terrain, and I love the snow ending. This is just a unique B&M invert. And this is just a coaster that you have to ride at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. I don't know why I was expecting my opinion off of Taylor Bybee. I know he's not really a big fan of Alpengeist, but I came in with low expectations, but I loved Alpengeist, and I would absolutely ride it again if I go to Busch Gardens Williamsburg. Okay, starting off the top 10, what do we have here? This might look different. This is where it starts getting different, guys. This is what we've been waiting for. My top 10 has changed. What could be number 10? You guys probably already see here. It's Apollo's Chariot at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. This is one fantastic B&M Hyper, I have to say. However, I've switched around my list a little bit. I feel like I prefer like the more intense coasters, like the more like the looping coasters and like more like B&M Hypers. I still have some B&M Hypers that are very high on this list, but Apollo's Chariot was fantastic. My favorite part is that drop. I love the drop, where you're just diving to some terrain area. It was just so cool. Plus, it had some very good airtime. Now, the first two airtime moments were a bit sluggish, I will admit, but the airtime builds towards the end were fantastic. This roller coaster just blew me away when I first rode it. When I first rode it, it actually became my favorite roller coaster. I'm dead serious. This was my favorite coaster at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, and definitely one of my favorite coasters. It might be my least favorite B&M Hyper, but I love B&M Hypers. They are amazing. And number 9, we have Kraken Unleashed at SeaWorld Orlando. This is a fantastic B&M floorless. Now, the reason why it's not as high as it used to be, it just doesn't seem... when I rode it, it kind of disappointed me because it didn't seem as intense. But, I mean, I understand, it's not going to be like Kumba. And that's not what this ride is. This is not like Kumba, nor Monceau. This is just an outstanding floorless coaster. It definitely still is a pretty intense coaster overall. You've definitely got some great inversions to it. Like my favorite part of this ride, I think my favorite part of this ride has to be that 0G roll. Like the 0G roll can honestly rival Kumba's Hell Roll. And I love the tunnel. What I also love about Kraken is the tunnels. The tunnels are subterranean dives. Also a factor next to water in one part of the ride. This ride has a whole shebang. It's amazing. Plus, it has a VR experience on this ride. Now, this is the only VR coaster I've ridden at the moment, and it's also the only floorless coaster. I'm still trying to figure out like what parks to go to next year. And I think it's very possible this year I could be riding another floorless coaster. So I'll let you guys know what parks I'll be going to once I figure that out. But man, this is an outstanding floorless coaster. I don't think it could get better than this for floorless. This is one of my favorite coasters ever. And yeah, it always has been. Now, I do prefer it without the VR, but the VR is outstanding. And number 8, look what we have here again. This is Afterburner at Carowinds. This roller coaster used to be my favorite B&M invert. However, I'm going to explain why it's not my favorite anymore. Yes, it is without a doubt the most intense invert I've ever ridden. However, it is a short ride. I just feel like I usually prefer rides that are more long than short. Yes, it packs a huge punch, but I like it when there's a ride that's like pretty long and just legendary. But I'm not saying I hate Afterburner. I love Afterburner. This roller coaster blew me away. From its smoothness to intensity, but it's just a bit of a short ride. But that does not stop me from loving this coaster a lot. I love Afterburner. I could ride this coaster literally all day. I rode this coaster about twice when I was at Carowinds. I went here in July of 2016. But yeah, this is a really good, like really intense coaster. The whole thing basically is just incredibly forceful. Like literally on the second ride I had in the back row, I basically felt like blacking out. It is that good of a roller coaster. It's that intense, and I love Afterburn. If you go to Carowinds, you must ride this roller coaster. It is incredible. Number 7 is Intimidator, another B&M hypercoaster. And this roller coaster is incredible as well. I really love this coaster. I love the airtime. Airtime is fantastic. Yes, it's a bit trimmed to death, but what I love about it is the airtime. I also love the drop as well. The drop actually grayed out, which was kind of weird. I've never this ride is pretty forceless, But I was kind of impressed when I experienced some force of the drop. It was a bit weird, but it happened. I love the train setting here too. I love the NASCAR themed train, and I love the stadium seating as well. I thought that was cool with Intimidator. And I loved it when we were like, gentlemen, start your engines. Now, I wish I had Intimidator 305s saying instead of the person who said gentlemen, start your engines sounded like he was dying. I'll have to agree with that. The one in Intimidator 305 is a lot better. Even though I have not ridden Intimidator 305 yet, I think it's very possible I could be going to Kings of Maine this year. I just don't know what parks I'm going to this year. Again, like I mentioned earlier, I'll let you know what parks I'll be going to whenever I find out. But this is an amazing coaster, and you have to ride it when you're at Carowinds. And number 6 is Monceau, which is my favorite B&M invert. That's right, this is my favorite invert coaster out there. I wasn't convinced or anything, but I just feel like Monceau overall, it might not be the most intense invert I've ridden. Yes, it is an incredibly forceful ride, but this roller coaster, what makes it so good is how long it is. I just love its duration, and also the forces. I just feel like it never ends. Yes, it's a bit of a shame that there's trims, but that doesn't stop me from loving Monceau. You can love a coaster even though there's something bad in it. I mean, the trims are not bad, it's just something I noticed. But this ride has some amazing elements. The vertical loop is amazing, even though the second one. I mean, the second half of the ride, I will admit, it's not as good as Monceau's. I wouldn't say this ride is as good as Monceau. Sorry, it's Kumba, my bad. This ride's not as good as Kumba because, in fact, the second half is a bit sluggish compared to the first half. However, still isn't good. Like, this is actually, fun fact, this ride has the first ever Illman ever made. Which that's pretty impressive. And also the 0G roll is amazing. That's probably supposed to be one of the best 0G rolls ever made. But my favorite part of Monceau is the batwing. This batwing is so intense. You feel like the blood is rushing to your legs. You feel like blacking out. It's incredible. That is one of the best inversions I've ever experienced. I should make a countdown. We're saying my top 10 favorite inversions I've experienced. I should start thinking about which ones are my favorites. So I'll let you guys know when I post that video. But Monceau overall is one incredible coaster that you have to ride when you're at Busch Tampa. Now we're getting into the top 5. This is where it gets good. Number 5, Superman Ride Steel at Six Flags America. I'm surprised, this is the only coaster at Six Flags America to make this list. This is by far my favorite ride in the park. This ride did not look like much, but I was decently surprised by this coaster. It was tons of fun. From its airtime to the helix. The helix I actually grayed out, which was very interesting. And the airtime was amazing, which you got some very good ejector. This is the first Intamin Hyper I ever rode. I rode this last summer in 2017. I actually have a vlog. You can see how blown away I was by this ride. And yeah, that's overall my thoughts on Monceau. Sorry, Superman Ride Steel. And yeah, now I wish I could ride the one in New England. I heard that one's better than this one, but this is still a great roller coaster, and you have to ride it. And I'm glad they got rid of the VR, because I heard the VR operations out here were absolutely horrible. So yeah, that's Superman Ride Steel, a coaster you must ride when you're at Six Flags America. Okay, coming in number 4, we have Goliath at Six Flags America, which is my favorite ride at Six Flags. Sorry, Six Flags over Georgia. Sorry, this is Goliath at Six Flags over Georgia, which is the only coaster that's called Goliath that I've ridden. There's so many coasters named Goliath, and this one is just amazing. This is a B&M Hyper, and this coaster surprised me. This reminds me a lot of Mako at SeaWorld Orlando. The airtime was amazing. My favorite part of this coaster, though, has to be the helix. This helix was just impressive. I grayed out actually a little bit through the helix, which is kind of weird because it's a B&M Hyper. B&M Hypers are not usually known for being the most intense roller coasters, but wow, I was just surprised when I actually grayed out in the helix. And I love, I also love that the drop is pretty good overall, but the second drop was really what got me like blown away, because you literally are like outside of the park at that time. Plus, you're going over the Georgia Scorcher, which I think was pretty neat. And I mean, that's not the smoothest ride. I found it to have a bit of a rattle, but Goliath was one heck of a beat up hyper, and you must ride it when you're at Six Flags over Georgia. Okay, now we're getting to the top 3. Number 3 will surprise you. Some of you have not known this yet. I told this in one of my vlogs, and so if you've seen the Busch Gardens Tampa vlog, you should know this, but Kumba takes number 3, which probably would blow away some of you now. This has to be one of my all-time favorite roller coasters. Oh my gosh. I don't think I've ever experienced a roller coaster this intense. This will most likely probably forever be my favorite B&M looping coaster. What separates Kumba from a lot of the other looping coasters built by B&M, just how intense it is, and how good it executes the entire layout. Literally, you are just speeding through this course from start to finish. It's incredible. Plus, it's insanely photogenic. This is a perfect looping coaster for me. Plus, you get some neat airtime. This has some insane elements, like this 0G roll. The 0G roll, known as the Hell Rolls, by the way. This inversion is just so insane. You feel like it's going to rip your arms off. It's incredible. And the helix at the end, oh my gosh, is just insanely good. If you can even touch the grass, which I feel like it will electrically shock you, which is impressive. This coaster is a work of art. It is a powerhouse. I wish B&Ms could be like this. I don't know why B&M doesn't make rides like they used to. It just disappoints me that they don't. They need to build a coaster more like. It's hard to find a coaster like this. And I will admit, this is a little rough. I will admit. But for me, the roughness adds to this coaster. See, roughness cannot be bad all the time. See, sometimes it even adds to the coaster. I think this is one of those coasters where the roughness makes the ride even way better, because it describes an old school B&M. And this is what I think of Kumba. I think of old school B&Ms when I think of Kumba. And plus, it's insanely photogenic. Literally every moment of the ride is incredible. There's not one moment where it loses momentum. And plus, you keep that speed throughout the entire ride. Oh my gosh, it's so good. From the loop to the corkscrews to the cobra roll. Like, that cobra roll is literally the smoothest cobra roll ever. Probably the best cobra roll, I have to say. I originally thought Haltz was the best, but I think Kumba is the best, I have to say. I said it. Kumba has the best cobra roll ever. And the dive loop is amazing. Everything about it, even the tunnel is amazing. I could just sit here and ride this coaster all day. I can even just sit here and just talk about how incredible Kumba is. Oh my gosh. If every time I go to Busch Gardens, I always try to ride this coaster. This is the ride I look forward to the most whenever I go to Busch Gardens Tampa. This is without a doubt the best ride at the park. And my favorite looping coaster ever. Oh my gosh, Kumba is so incredible. Okay, coming in number 2 is one of my all-time favorites as well. And a coaster that I could just sit here ride all day as well. This is Mako at SeaWorld Orlando, which is my favorite B&M hyper I've ever ridden. If you think my thoughts on Kumba were amazing, this coaster is incredible. First off, I don't think I've ever experienced a roller coaster this smooth. The smoothness is off the charts here. Literally, this is B&M is known for making smooth rides, but man, this is the definition of a smooth roller coaster. Plus, the airtime is insane. You're getting some amazing flojector airtime. Plus, the speed hill is amazing, and you're over water, which even adds to it. This roller coaster, I've ridden this coaster so many times. This is just a coaster that's so special to me. That's why I love it so much. I mean, honestly, I can rattle between this and Kumba as the best coaster in Florida. but this coaster is just plain epic, just like Kuba is. And literally, I mean, might not be the most intense ride. Like I said earlier, B&M Hypers are not usually known for being the most intense rides. I also love how at the end, like, you're sprawling through, like, the plaza, which I think that's impressive. But, man, Mako is one heck of a B&M Hyper coaster. Absolutely my favorite B&M Hyper I've ever ridden. It's like a B&M RMC, if I could say it like that. It's probably not like that, but I'm just kind of saying like that. And that's exactly what Mako is. Mako is one heck of a B&M roller coaster. And you must ride when you're at SeaWorld Orlando. Without a doubt, my favorite ride in the park. And yeah, I don't think the trims really bother that much. I mean, yes, it's kind of trimmed a little heavy, but man, but you just retain all the airtime. Mako is one incredible roller coaster. Okay, so let's move on to number one. Number one should surprise anyone. This is Fury 325 at Carowinds. Oh my gosh, this is the roller coaster for me. It is the roller coaster for me. This thing is, oh my gosh, I was expecting this to be a fair coaster, and it became my favorite coaster when I rode it. Literally everything about this ride is incredible, from the drop to the intensity to the speed. I mean, yeah, it was also very smooth to it. I mean, definitely noticed it to be a little shaky, which was kind of disappointing, but that did not take me from this ride at all. The speed to the smoothness to the airtime. The airtime was crazy. That's some incredible airtime. It's an insanely long ride. And also the dive into the bridge, like through the bridge, I thought it was so cool. The jump clef is amazing. Literally, I love here flying through the pathway, like through the entrance pathway. Oh my gosh, Fury is so good. And I know some people are starting to say this is an overrated roller coaster. I mean, and this is right now ranked as the best coaster in the world by the Golden Ticket Awards. And I'm glad I'm able to get to ride this coaster when I had the chance to. Literally, Fury 325 changed my life when I rode it. It literally got me a taste of new roller coasters. It was incredible. This will always be a special roller coaster for me. I'm not sure if there's any roller coasters that could beat this coaster. I mean, sure there are. There could be. There are some coasters that I have not ridden yet that I think could be a possible new favorite. Like, look at Steel Vengeance at Sierra Point. That looks to be one heck of a coaster. Plus, there's some other ones like El Toro, Voyage, Intimidator 305, Sky Rush, Maverick, Millennium Force, which I don't think that will be my favorite. But yeah, Fury was one heck of a roller coaster. Oh yeah, don't forget Lightning Rod as well. Why did I forget Lightning Rod? But yeah, Fury is an incredible coaster, and you have to ride it when you're at Carowinds. Okay, and that will do it for this review. Now let me get to an update real quick. We are now on Instagram. The link for my Instagram for the channel's Instagram will be in the description for the videos and probably the rest of the videos from now on. So if you would like to check out some updates on the Theme Park Guide Productions Instagram account, you can check that out on there. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. You can comment down what is your top 25 favorite coasters. I like to know in the comments below. And I'll catch y'all next time. Have a theme-tacular day.